Cool. So we're live. Hey, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us today. Quick shout out to Blue Loop for facilitating this session. Really excited to speak to you today. The topic for the discussion is leveraging guest sentiment data to improve experiences and drive business growth. If you have any questions or comments along the way, please feel free to use the chat box and we'll do our best to get to those at the end of the session. So the session will last for hopefully 30 minutes if me and Rich are on time, and then we'll allow for about 10 minutes at the end to answer the questions. So yeah, just a quick intro. I'm Luke Finn. I'm the CEO and founder of Roller, and on the line we've also got Richard Steers, our Chief Product Officer at Roller. Hey, Rich.
Hey, everyone. Looking forward to talking about leveraging guest feedback.
So Rich is dialing in from our Melbourne office, and I'm dialing in from my home Sydney office. I have a baby daughter next door, so if you hear any crying, apologies in advance. Cool. So for those of you that don't know about Roller, I'll just give a quick kind of overview. We are an all-in-one cloud-based software platform built for businesses in the leisure and attractions industry. Some of our products include ticketing and online bookings and party bookings, point of sale, food and beverage, retail point of sale, waivers systems, so liability waivers for those venues that require that, memberships, recurring billing style memberships, self-serve kiosks, obviously trying to help automate the flow within the venues, a fully integrated payments module as well, and a host of other applications that together create what we call the guest experience platform. And a few high-level stats. We have roughly 900 amazing clients around the world, ranging from zoos to theme parks to family entertainment centers, trampoline parks, and a host of other amazing attractions. These clients are scattered across 26 countries around the world. We are currently processing roughly 100 million guest admissions annually. And we have a team of 75 incredible staff scattered around the world from London, Scotland, Melbourne, LA, Colombia. Yeah, some incredible places, but incredible team. So that's a high-level overview on Roller. So our mission at Roller is to empower businesses to be more effective and more efficient, ultimately helping them to deliver amazing guest experiences. At Roller, we believe delivering an amazing guest experience is critical to building a sustainable and growing business in the leisure and attractions industry. So before we get into the guest sentiment data piece of this session, I just wanted to give you an overview of how we think about guest experience at Roller and why it's so important to focus on that in order to build a thriving business. So let's start with the guest journey. So the guest journey typically starts with the attract phase. So this is all about building awareness and interest in your offering. So building a web presence, building a social presence, doing promotions, ads, and really trying to attract people to your brand and your offering. Then once you've built that attraction, the next is the engage phase. So this is about turning that interest into commitment from guests to actually come into your venue. So this is about the online checkout and trying to get people to fully buy into coming into your venue. Next is the deliver phase. So this is where the guest actually enters your venue. So obviously this is all about guest service, and delivering the entertainment that you offer inside your venue. Then if you do that well, you'll build a return visitor or return guest. Then the next step, which is really the holy grail, which is building advocacy. So building guests that want to return, but also recommend you to friends and family, and that builds word of mouth marketing, which for the marketers out there, obviously that is where we want to try and get to because it's the cheapest form of marketing. And then that rounds out, that builds then more attraction to the brand through those advocates, and around we go. And that rounds out essentially what we refer to as the guest experience flywheel. So this is essentially a framework on how to think about building momentum and growth within your business. So the flywheel, what you want to do is try and spin that flywheel. And the faster it spins, that represents better and faster growth within your business. So in order to make that spin, there's a few touch points along that guest journey that we just spoke about. So marketing is driving the attract phase, driving them to the website. The online checkout converts them into a committed guest to attend the venue. The guest arrives. The team provide amazing guest service. Then you deliver the entertainment that you offer inside your venue. You can create incentives to try and get people back in for that repeat visitation. Then really happy guests tell their friends, create public reviews, and that makes the flywheel spin. And I'll just highlight all of these things work in tandem to make that flywheel spin. But one thing to look out for is friction. So any friction within this process halts the momentum of the flywheel, and we'll talk through a few examples of that shortly. So I just want to talk through a scenario of a good guest experience and how that results in the flywheel spinning. So imagine someone, a visitor comes to your website, has a really nice experience on the website and a great online booking process. They arrive at the venue, it's a smooth check-in process, they fly through the lines, and then your team deliver an amazing guest service interaction. Then that guest leaves, goes online, leaves a positive review saying you have to go, and that creates that word of mouth marketing, driving more guests to your venue. So if we just focus on the return and advocate stage for a second. So with repeat visitation, think of when a guest first comes in on their first visit, let's just say they spent $50. If that visit was incredible, then they become a repeat visitor and come back again. They spend another $50 on the second visit, come back again, another $50 on the third, the fourth, and so on. So what we really need to think about here is the long-term value built of providing a great guest experience once you've initially attracted that guest is much more than the first visit. It's kind of extrapolated out over time based on the number of times they come in. So to take that a step further and think about the advocacy stage. So imagine that guest who potentially comes back 4 times, becomes an advocate. They tell someone else, one of their friends. That friend comes, enjoys it, tells their friends, and then you're creating this advocacy effect of word of mouth through word of mouth marketing. And this is all grown off just that first guest who's come in, and you've delivered an incredible guest experience. They come again, they tell their friends, and really that is how you build a growing and sustainable business. Now let's just look at the flip side of that. Imagine a guest experience where online booking is great, website's great, but when they arrive, the check-in process is average. Imagine the guest turns up, staff member doesn't have record of the booking, there's the lines, and it just puts the experience off on the wrong foot. So then in order to keep that flywheel spinning, the guest service team needs to work extra hard to try and get that experience back on track. They may succeed or they may not. So this person then may not come back because of that friction in the process. Then they're probably not going to give an online review. Therefore, you're missing out on the word of mouth opportunity. So again, just going back and then, round that out. Then marketing has to work extra hard to keep that flywheel spinning and attract more guests. Attracting new guests is the most costly part of marketing versus bringing back repeat visitors and obviously the word of mouth as well. Just going back to those two illustrations of repeat visitation and advocacy. Repeat visitation, this guest comes in, spends $50, and the experience is average. They don't come back, and you're essentially missing out on this kind of long tail opportunity of future revenue. And then applying that to the advocacy effect, their experience is average. Therefore, they're not going to tell someone about, well, they're not going to say good things about that experience, and you're not going to create this kind of flow-on effect. Even worse, if they have a bad experience and then say negative things or leave a negative review, this can be really damaging to your brand and actually stop others that are looking at your website and your online views to actually even bother coming into your venue based on the negative reviews. So this all comes down to delivering a great guest experience. So delivering a great guest experience is critical to growth. So now to bring this back to the topic of today, which is around guest sentiment data, delivering the guest experience is critical. But to continually improve the guest experience, you really need to understand what your guests think. You need to collect the feedback, and you need to improve those friction points along the process to try and turn everyone into repeat visitors and everyone into advocates of your business. So I'm going to hand over to Rich now, who's going to talk through a few things regarding capturing guest sentiment.
Thanks, Luke. So, obviously there's many ways to capture guest sentiment, and we have all probably participated in these, and we've spoken to many of our customers and businesses about the means of capturing feedback from our guests. And one-to-one conversations are a great method. If you've got someone who's very skilled at it, they can collect a lot of great qualitative information, and it's good to hear it direct. But there's challenges with this. It's often tainted. The guests might not want to be as candid as they might be when they're just typing it out and they don't feel that they're having to provide that directly to someone who was involved in providing that service. It's often difficult to get a very good cross-section of guests, as staff tend to gravitate towards those more satisfied guests. Engaging with someone who's less satisfied is quite a confrontational situation, and obviously people tend to shy away from that. And collating and aggregating this feedback is really challenging. How do we talk to that person and engage them into their direct feedback, but also record notes in a way that can be shared with other people and then actioned. So it's a great means, but it's difficult to scale. Online reviews, like we're all used to Google, Facebook, Yelp, all of those sorts of sites. They're often very extreme. All right, we get the polls, the people that are really, really happy, or the people that are really unsatisfied. And I kind of talk about online reviews being similar to the back of the scrawlings that we used to see on the back of toilet cubicles about, and that's what online has kind of come. The sample size is not a good representation of the entire customer base. They're those people that have an axe to grind, that are particularly motivated in one or polar ways. Mystery shoppers are good, but they're quite expensive, and they're professionals that you employ to come in and experience the entire flow of purchasing through to participating. But they might not necessarily be representative of your guest profile and the common person that's coming through. And in addition to being costly, it's hard to build this in a really scalable way ongoing. And then surveys. Using off-the-shelf survey tools, there's many of them around. They can be effective, but what we've seen is that they can be tricky to set up. They tend to ask a lot of repetitive questions that I'm sure we've all filled out these surveys, that are asking me information that I'm feeling like, why should I have to be providing this to you? You should know who I am. You know who I am as a guest or a customer. You know what I purchased. You know when I was there. Why are you asking me in a survey this sort of information to give you that context? And I think a lot of times people, when they set up these surveys, they're trying to ask too much of the customer. They're curious about a lot of things, and these surveys tend to get very, very long, and customers get fatigued at filling them out. So, whilst these mediums and these different types of feedback are great touch points, they're difficult to operationalize, and the data kind of gives us little silos and little spotlights in areas, but doesn't give us a full picture. So moving across the next slide, Luke, when we're kind of some tips when we're capturing real and actionable feedback, it needs to be, in the moment, and it needs to be ongoing. Receiving feedback at the right time is the key to being able to action it. Ideally, you're getting this feedback from the guests as soon as possible after they're finishing their experience and it's fresh in their mind. They're motivated to give you, very specific feedback that's fresh of mind for them. And it needs to be something that we constantly are collecting feedback. It's not something that we do in fits and spurts. It's something that is always going, and therefore we're creating this kind of stream of feedback that's coming in. It needs to be transparent and free of bias. So going direct to the customer is the best way to get the right feedback. Allowing them to provide the feedback in an environment where they're not pressured, they're not on the phone, they're not directly talking to someone who might have been serving them and involved in something that they might not be happy about, tends to eliminate the biases that happen. And that way we create great data that can be used in an ongoing way to drive real outcomes, to focus the team on specific issues with particular experiences, specific issues with facilities, or particular processes that you have involved in your experience. So the key factors that contribute to the guest experience. We undertook a really significant customer research project focused specifically on the leisure and attraction industry. We had a team of researchers, behavioural and data sciences that use quantitative and qualitative methods to discover the key factors that influence a guest experience. And what they found is that there's four main categories. And the first one is service. Consumers directly responded that empathy, usefulness, efficiency, and professionalism from customer service representatives is key in providing a great experience. The second was facilities. And there's quite a few, I think, topics that relate to facilities, in addition to the expected things such as parking, restrooms, food and beverage. Facilities includes other topics such as, is it a family-friendly environment? Is it accessible? Environmental factors such as sound and air quality, and the space itself in terms of its physical layout, crowding, they all affect the quality of a guest's experience. Next is cleanliness and safety, and this has been heightened during COVID. COVID precautions featured highly in responses from customers, as well as overall maintenance, smell, hygiene, and from a safety perspective, the safety of equipment, processes, supervision and guidance. Whilst they can frustrate some guests, they contribute significantly to making guests feel safe. The final one, value for money. Guests often compare overall cost to competitors, and it's important that there's a unique aspect to your experience or selling proposition, and there's the diversity of attractions influences a guest's perception of value for money quite significantly. So, steps to uncovering the full picture. The first one's survey design. So, as we mentioned here, everyone would have heard this saying, optimize for mobile. If you're getting the timeliness of that requests for feedback, it's most likely to be on a mobile device, but it's got to look great on all devices, and they come in all shapes and forms these days. The second one is, don't ask customers for information that you already know. Find ways, whether it's hidden fields or methods to link to information that you have. Don't ask customers for information that you should already know about them. The third point here, really think about the questions that you're asking. Do you need to ask it? What are you going to do with this information? Because the more questions you ask, the more abandonment you're going to have from your survey, and the more frustration you're going to create, in some cases, for someone who's already a frustrated guest. And the next one is around dynamic questions about, based on their response, discovering things that were important in contributing to that response, whether it was positive or negative. The second, kind of major overarching thing is around incentives. So, we're all very time poor, and we think it's important to incentivize a guest for providing you this information. It's not about buying it, but it's just good to maximize people's coverage, maximize participation and get the widest coverage in terms of your audience. You can incentivize guests by providing them discounts, possibly gift vouchers, other ways that you're just recognizing their time for giving you this very valuable feedback. And the third and final area is around data quality. So it's important to get as much data from as many different types of customers: new customers, returning customers, members, people who shopped online, people who purchased in store, participants of parties or group bookings, and then be able to segment them so that you're able to really pull apart where you have some challenges within your experience that you can optimize in order to improve your overall experience to guests. And then being able to benchmark that against how you perform against others in the industry is a way to really focus your attention on things that could possibly have the greatest return on your effort. I'll hand across back to you now, Luke.
Awesome. So yeah, the point here is if you can effectively capture guest sentiment through the ways that Rich has described, then you can create real change in your business by using that guest sentiment data. So here are a few examples of changes that you could make driven by feedback. So the first is adjusting staff for optimal guest service. If you are able to capture guest feedback and tie that against your staffing levels, you may get types of data like on Saturdays, when we have a huge influx of guests, we're receiving below average feedback on our customer service. Therefore, perhaps you need to increase the number of staff that you have on that particular day. And remember, tying it back to the flywheel, it may cost you a little bit more to bring on more people on that particular day, but the long-term effects of delivering great experiences, are huge if you can do it right. So this is the type of staffing and resourcing changes that you can make based on feedback. Optimizing pricing models. So we've spoken to a lot of different businesses, and often pricing is like a set and forget exercise. That shouldn't be the case. We need to start capturing the value for money factor that Rich just spoke about to inform what are the pricing levels that we should be going to market with. If the value for money rating from customers is that it's great value for the money, perhaps you are underpricing your product. And just slight tweaks to the pricing model can have transformative results to your business. Adapting facilities based on guest preferences. Again, if you're getting feedback on different parts of your venue, then you can chop and change things, you can move things around, and that change might just drive that guest experience rating higher and perhaps create return visitors and advocates. Finally, assessing the impact of products that you offer. So whether it's a 1 hour ticket versus a 3 hour ticket, how are they performing in terms of the ratings that are coming back from guests or parties? Parties and group bookings are a huge part of your revenue. So understanding what the guest experience is for that particular cohort of your guests is really important. So you can use that data to tweak your product offering and double down on the things that are going well, and perhaps look to change out some of the things that aren't going too well. Another key part of using this guest data to improve the guest experience is being able to rapidly identify and resolve poor guest experiences. So it would be ideal if you can really get instant notification in terms of any negative experiences that are happening, so you can immediately rectify them. If you can rectify them immediately, you might just be able to turn critics into fans. If you're able to call them, as soon as a negative feedback comes in, and talk them through, hey, we are always trying to improve our guest experience. What could we do to improve? Potentially offer them a gift card to come back in. Like, that is a real opportunity to turn a critic who may have just gone off into the wild and become a hater into a fan, and potentially a return visitor, and potentially an advocate. And lastly, we all know how damaging negative reviews are online. Spoke about that before, but if you can get in and try and resolve issues before they go and blow up your Facebook and online Google reviews, that's a win. So being able to rapidly identify the issues and solve them quickly is really important. So how are we going for time? We've got about 5 minutes left. So yeah, just to summarize what we've discussed so far. We've established that guest experience is critical. Capturing guest sentiment is also critical to continually improve. Traditional methods, whilst they do provide some touch point, don't tell the full picture. Implementing disparate systems, online reviews, mystery shopping, one-on-one conversations, it's difficult to implement that and operationalize that. But we're recognizing if you can effectively capture and operationalize the feedback, it unlocks huge growth opportunities. So today we are really excited to introduce a product that we've been working on for some time to help address these challenges and help businesses to really leverage guest sentiment data to improve their business and drive growth. So I'm going to hand over to Rich.
Yeah, so all the things that I talked about before, and looking at how we would try to solve this problem for our customers, we recognized that there was still going to be challenges integrating into other systems. And so we built a new product called the Guest Experience Score. And it's a tool to enable parks in leisure and attraction businesses to collect, analyze, and action guest feedback. The product itself has a couple of really core fundamental aspects to it. The delivery to guests and the timing of that is ultra critical to the optimization of response rate. So because Roller knows when a guest is finishing their experience, we're able to deliver the request for feedback at a time where it's fresh in their mind, they're leaving the venue, they've got great feedback to provide. And when that feedback comes in, we're able to deliver instant alerts to operators that's linked to real booking and guest data, because not all this might sound a bit funny, but not all guests are the same. Like a lot of your guests are a member who's paying you a membership fee every month is someone that you really want to prioritize getting in contact with if they've had a negative review. And in that instant alert, we provide not only their feedback, but we provide all of their booking information from that particular experience, but also their lifetime experience when they first became a guest, how much they've spent with you over time, their total number of experiences that enables you to make some decisions around immediately escalating and actioning that particular response. Summaries of daily and weekly kind of performance to give you an overall understanding of how you're doing, not only as an overall metric in the guest experience score itself, but in those individual areas that we talked about before around service, cleanliness, facilities, value for money. And then insights and trends around comparing how you're performing both in your vertical and your geographical area against other similar businesses, and the feedback that they're getting from guests are all key aspects of the guest experience score. In addition to what is a very professional representation of your brand and the questions that we ask in the survey response. The actual experience for the guests of completing the survey is what's optimal, what needs to be optimal in order to get the best rate of response. The way that a guest is able to very quickly provide either very high level information and abandon the survey, but we still capture that, or whether they provide more context and provide comments. And we are actually seeing a very high level of response of guests providing further comments that give you that real gold in terms of the data that comes through that enables you to action and to follow up with them around that particular experience that the guest has had.
Awesome. Thanks, Rich. So yeah, just rounding that out, as I stated at the start, at Roller, we're fully focused on trying to help businesses to improve the guest experience. This guest experience score product, we're very excited about it. The feedback from our customers who are using it at the moment is really, really positive, and they're now relying on that as a product to run their business and improve their business through capturing guest sentiment data. And yeah, we think it's a key product to help make this flywheel spin and help businesses build a sustainable and growing leisure and attractions venue. So that's all we have for today. First, before we go to Q&A, I'd just like to say, if you've got any comments, again, drop them in the chat box and we'll answer them now if we can. If you want to get more information on Roller or the guest experience score, just head to our website, which is roller.software, and to go to the guest experience score, roller.software/GX score. So now we'll pause for questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Luke and Richard. That was really interesting, and I think really helpful to have some actionable steps that attractions can take to make sure that the guest experience kind of stays at the heart of what they do, and really exciting to hear a bit more about the new guest experience score. So we've got a few questions that have come in. So one question is, can you survey guests during the experience so that you can turn around negative responses sort of straight away?
You want to take that, Rich?
It's an interesting one, and to be honest, I hadn't really thought of it, but it's a great suggestion. We're not doing it currently with the guest experience score, but it's definitely something that you could do. It would be an interesting concept, and definitely something interesting to experiment with and see what the response rate is. I suppose the question would always be how to know whether the guest has had enough of a completion of their experience and what sort of timing.
Yeah. Just add to that, what we're trying to get is like a holistic view on the experience. So ideally, we're trying to ask the questions once they've left. So the way in which the survey is kind of delivered to the guests is based on assumptions on when they have left. If businesses are using ticket setups where it's like time-based, so we know with accuracy when they start and when they end, it's much more accurate in terms of the delivery time, versus a theme park that might have a day ticket where we know when they attend because we can track when people check in, but when they leave is a bit of a trickier thing. But overall, we're trying to get that high level holistic view of the guest experience.
Great. And I think you've sort of touched on this briefly, but someone's asked, what measures can attractions put in place to anticipate or prevent negative scores on review sites like Trustpilot?
So yeah, I guess this is one of the main features of the guest experience score. It's delivering. So the way that we've set it up is you can send instant notifications directly to people on duty at that particular time. So as soon as the negative review comes in via the guest experience score, you get an instant notification with an email that basically provides all the information of that guest, what they purchased, when they attended, what time they arrived, and then a click to call function so you can get on the phone to them straight away and try and resolve that. So yeah, I guess it's a reactionary thing, but we've had examples of customers that currently use it where they're getting feedback that, for example, their toilets are unclean or something like that, where they can immediately go and fix that, and then obviously they're improving that experience for everyone else.
Just even the timing of the survey itself going to the guest. I mean, generally the guest is looking to share or vent about their particular dissatisfaction, and the fact that you're asking them in a timely manner, it's not a hugely convenient thing to go and find a business online and log in and submit that review. And by providing a timely survey request, you're circumventing in a lot of cases someone going to that extent, because you're giving them a medium to be able to express their frustration about something that's happened during their experience. And as Luke mentioned, the timeliness of then actioning that is something that enables you to really convert them from someone who's a critic into hopefully turning them around and getting them to come back and have a better experience.
Yeah, and I guess actually this next question sort of follows on from that really nicely. So how do you suggest operators best tackle negative feedback?
I think one is addressing it immediately, I think is key, to the point Rich just described. But I think being genuine on the call with them, to just let them know that, hey, our business is built around trying to provide an amazing experience for you, and we're trying to do that. There's going to be hiccups along the way, and we just want to open the door for feedback directly from you. And I think when you approach it that way, people aren't going to blow up too much on the phone. If you set the right context at the start of those types of calls, I think you'll get a good reaction. And again, we've had examples of customers that are using the guest experience score that have done exactly that, where someone might be a bit heated, they call them, they explain that, and then those people end up taking that in as a great part of the experience, the follow-up. And then, they go and talk to their friends, and that might be a highlight for them that, hey, we provided negative feedback. We got this instant call back, and that was just amazing guest service. And that then can start the flywheel spinning again with driving advocacy, even in the case where the experience within the venue might not have been that great.
I think they're also aggrieved customers are also, there's a lot of similarities to product management. They're actually really engaged customers. The fact that they're prepared to provide you with that feedback and engage you, they are people that you can re-engage if you handle them right. And the most important thing, I think, is not to be defensive. Like, someone's opinion is based through their eyes, and to not be defensive about why, you were busy, it was out of your control. In the end, that's their perception of their experience. And what you're trying to do is not defend it, but encourage them to come back and to fix it, and to fix their perception of you.
And so we've just got another question saying, how should you leverage a position review into, a positive review into advocacy?
So there's a few things that we're working on to try and help, encourage great reviews to then go and spread the word more broadly. I think, though, at its core, creating the advocacy all comes down to that great guest experience. Right, and this is what the whole product is kind of designed around, trying to impact. And if you can achieve that, the advocates, pointing them to certain things, yes, we can potentially do that. But at the end of the day, they're going to go out and speak to their friends and colleagues. And if they have a great experience, if they were wowed in that experience, it's going to come up in conversation organically, and the word would spread. But yeah, there's a few things that we are looking at the moment to try and help push that a little bit further.
I think even immediately actionable is recognizing that they are an advocate, and therefore offering them kind of group-based incentives, like things like party offers, or larger group bookings that they can potentially share with friends and encourage friends to participate in a group experience. But like Luke said, we are very close to implementing some things to automate this process of publicly advocating and socially kind of sharing. Great.
And what business types within the leisure and attractions industry does the guest experience score apply to?
Everyone. So any business within the leisure and attractions industry where guest experience is at the core of what they do, which is all of them, this product applies. So already we have zoos, museums, theme parks, trampoline parks, FECs using this product. And the way in which it's set up is it's purpose built for this industry. So it's not just a generic kind of survey tool. We've built it specifically for this industry. And the applicability of it is across all the different kind of lines of business within the industry.
Yeah, that research piece I talked about was a key part of us kind of identifying what are the factors that affect a guest experience across all of the different verticals, and the weightings of them across different verticals. And we've provided within the guest experience score means to be able to add and remove rating factors that may or may not be applicable to your type of experience. Obviously a museum asking a question, a rating factor around safety isn't relevant like it is in a trampoline park or a rock climbing environment.
Great. And can this guest experience score be used with an existing system that an attraction has?
Yes, so we have APIs available, and we can integrate, and we're very happy to talk to other providers about how they can integrate it into their experience. We also do have the ability to have QR codes linked and the ability for customers to be able to scan those. It's obviously not the ideal experience. The best, as we mentioned, is to be able to time the delivery of the survey based on the ticket or event ending, and so that you're sending it in that kind of real time. And our APIs enable that to be triggered, and they will therefore also enable linking of booking and guest record from that source system. But yeah, we're definitely very open to integrating this with other providers in the leisure and attractions industry.
And should monitoring the guest experience be the responsibility of just one team, or should all departments be involved in that process?
I think there's multiple layers to that. One is like the immediate responses. So in the heat of the moment, when the negative reviews come through, or any notification comes through that requires immediate action, someone should be assigned to that. I don't think it needs to be a whole company thing. You want someone or a couple of people who are assigned to that role. But in terms of monitoring the guest experience over the course of a day, a week, a month, that should be something that the whole team gets around. Like the guest experience score metric itself is an indicator over time of how your guest experience is performing, and that really impacts everyone within the business. So it should be something that's talked about: weekly meetings, monthly meetings, all of that.
I think it's really important to form, with those meetings, have outcomes and trying to do retros or detailed sessions to really break into why, say, for instance, a segment of party feedback is not as high as other, or a member's experience and those ratings not as high as others, trying to dig into why those particular experiences are rating lower than others, or new guests versus returning guests if there's a disparity. I think that's where being able to get granular and look very tactically at what challenges those guests are having will enable you to achieve improvements in the overall guest experience and identify problems.
Great. I think we've got time for just one more question. What is the difference between standard survey tools and the guest experience score?
Cool. I'm happy to go first.
Go on.
Okay. Well, let's take it from the guest point of view. Typically, when you receive a standard generic survey, it comes fully empty. You have to fill in information like your name, when did you attend, what did you purchase, all of this stuff. And it's just a painful experience to have to go back through and fill out those things, which definitely reduces the conversion of people actually going through and completing that. Ours is more like the Uber experience. And when you get out of car, you get the survey immediately. It's fully pre-filled with your name, and it knows where you've been, it knows who your driver was, all of that. And it's just a very simple experience. That's what ours is like from a guest side of things. It's all instant, super easy to fill out, great experience on the mobile. And filling out the feedback is actually part of the guest journey. If you leave a place and you get like this horrible survey, it just adds another element of like frustration to that experience. So you really want the actual experience of filling out the survey to be awesome. Do you want to talk about the operator side, Rich?
Yeah, I think organizing timely delivery is much harder than people realize. Like making sure that it sends at the precise right moment is much trickier. And what I've seen most people implement are these kind of daily or weekly, or even worse, exports from one system into another, and therefore you're getting an email asking for feedback about an experience that you had 3 days ago. And what you're going to get then is a very generalized sentiment. You're not going to get specific things that were top of mind that really contributed to that. And I think you're going to get the wrong signals, and you're not going to be able to get insights that you're going to be able to action. I think, certainly what we've done with the guest experience score is we spent a lot of time on the experience, and particularly the mobile experience and the way that it flows, and it's very easy for the user to complete. And that's why we've seen such a high level of completion from the beta sites and now the customers that are using it. And we've also implemented that it's saving that survey as you progress through the survey. So even if you abandon it mid-survey, you've still collected all of the feedback, whereas a lot of other survey tools, until you get to that completion screen, that survey's not saved, and therefore it's not actioned. I think the other thing that we're able to offer is it's integrated into the roller platform, which enables us to offer guests incentives for completing and spending the time. So we're able to automate the provision of a discount code, and in the future a gift card if you're wanting to provide that to highly valued customers, automating that process to pull them back in for the next experience.
Yeah, I'll just cover other ones. I think there's a lot, but I have a few differences on the back end. When all the surveys are completed and they flow in, typically on other survey tools, you just get this massive list of like survey responses, and it's often difficult to go through and actually get an aggregate view of what the data is trying to tell you. In the roller platform, our goal is to capture as much information as possible and serve up the simplest possible view so you can take out the insights and implement them into your business. So that's one thing. We've obviously talked about the negative review alerts. I think that is pretty unique. But I think the key thing here is it's marrying up all of the data that we already collect behind the scenes, attendance data, what time you attended, who served you at the point of sale, what product did you purchase. All of that is already captured. So when you layer on the response from the guest experience score, you get this super rich view of the experience, and then you can start to do things like filtering down on guest experience scores where people purchased a membership, and you can drill that down and see what they're saying about the guest experience. All of those kind of drill down abilities just make the system much more powerful, and ultimately provide those key insights that you can take away and then implement into your business to improve the guest experience.
Great. It sounds like such a great product. I think that's all the questions that we have time for at the moment. So it just remains to say thank you again to Luke and Richard. It's been really great. Thank you for organising and presenting this webinar. And thank you to everyone who has attended and watched and asked questions. This session will be available on demand as well. So you can kind of come back and watch it if there are any sections that you missed. So thank you very much, Luke and Richard, and awesome. I hope everyone has a good day.
Thanks, Alice.
Thank you.
Bye.